All right, typical plein air. I had a spot that I was going to paint and make a video, but they are cutting down some trees, so there's a lot of chainsaw noise. So I'm going to look for something else. It's a beautiful day, so there's lots to paint. This is Montera Beach down here, and this is McNee Ranch. I've painted over there before. All right, so I'm set up right here on the path. I was thinking of setting up over here, but there's so much poison oak. That's what it looks like, and it's pretty much everywhere. So I've carefully placed my stuff so that it won't get any of the oil from the leaves. So I've got my panel carrier over here, and I'm hanging my backpack on my easel, so hopefully nothing will touch the leaves. I'm painting on a 16 by 20 inch panel. I got my usual palette of colors here. This is the scene I'm gonna be working with. Lots of green out there. All right, toning in burnt sienna, just thinning with odorless mineral spirits. And I feel like these sort of orange tones will be nice in the bits where I'm painting the trail. Also, I'll probably leave little bits of orange showing through in the finished painting to complement the blues and greens. All right, and then I just wipe it down with a paper towel. A lot of people ask why I don't just pre-tone, and part of the reason is because I like to choose the color that I tone, and then also I like painting on a slightly wet surface, so there's just a thin film of mineral spirits on here, and it just helps the paint go down quickly. I'm going to try to break this down into simple shapes as usual. So for example, this is one shape here, this grouping of trees is another shape, distant hills is a shape, the sky is a shape, and then this trail. Okay, sketching in burnt sienna as well. And I just want to put a few simple lines down to kind of establish, like I said, to establish the big shapes. And there's like a grouping of trees in here, something like that. And then the trail kind of hooks around like this. Kind of like that. These trees in here are going to be the darkest value, and I'm going to have those are going to be sort of like a warm green along the top, and then I'm going to cool down the distant hills and make them more of a blue-green. Once I've got the big shapes in place, I can kind of look for just a little bit more variety in the lines. And I think I want to bring these trees out maybe just a little bit further. I kind of want to show like a hint of the trail out here as well, something like that. But that's the basic idea. All right, for the sky, I'm using a mixture of ultramarine blue, titanium white, and a touch of phthalo blue. Normally I paint dark to light, but this is going to be the easiest color for me to establish. So occasionally I'll put in the sky first. And there are quite a few clouds, but I'm just going to go with a simple blue for now. All right, so I'm going to mix up my brightest green, and this is cadmium yellow medium, phthalo blue, and a touch of alizarin crimson. I'm not worried about getting these colors exact at this point. I just want to make sure that the big shapes are appealing, and also exaggerating, you know, the brightness of this grass here, and then I'll come on top of this with variations. But for now, I do want to establish this area as, you know, a really bright, warm green. And then there's a bit more over here too. This side is a little bit, maybe a little bit darker. All right, so a mid-value green here, same color combination, but I'm using more alizarin, and I've actually added a touch of burnt sienna. And I will come in and put, you know, darker bits at the base of the trees, but for now, just, you know, kind of getting a general value established, keeping some transparency. I am thinning with liquid as usual, and I kind of like how this side slopes off, so I want to make sure that I maintain that. Now this area over here is darker, so I'm going to mix in more ultramarine, just darkening it up. I think I'll add some more burnt sienna as well. So I plan to exaggerate some of these value relationships, but I do want to stay somewhat true to the scene. So in here there's going to be some darker bits. like this. All right, so next I'm going to paint that distant mountain there. So sort of a blue-green color here. Just kind of starting out with, you know, these estimates, color estimates. All right, so next the trail. All right, so for the trail, using a mixture of titanium white, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre. I'm going to try to leave little bits of the orange from the sketch showing through as well. Oops, I got a bit of green in there. That's all right. So painting on this 16 by 20 is going to allow me to have some fun with the brushwork. And also with landscapes, I find that it's kind of nice to paint on a larger panel to kind of capture some of the grandeur of the scene. All right, so I feel like this shape here needs to be broken up a little bit. So I might try to include some shrubs in the foreground here. So I've mixed some dioxazine purple into this green mix, and I'm not even sure exactly what I want here, but I do want like a little bit of variety and a little interest here. And then actually maybe some over along here as well. All right, dioxazine purple and titanium white. There are some dead branches out here. Trying to keep the value somewhat light so that it doesn't, like I said, break up the overall design. And there's little bits of it over here as well. Trying to be conscious of the design at all times. So looking for things that that sort of bug me and then trying to correct them. For example, I'm feeling like these two shapes are kind of too close in size. So I think I'm going to make the trees here a little bit bigger. So I'll just experiment by raising up the top of this tree. And I do want to keep some variety along the treetops so they're not, you know, really uniform. Maybe raise this one up a little bit too. Something like that. And there we go. And I'll just kind of suggest some of the bottoms of these clouds here. And it's really important not to make these value shifts too dramatic. Sometimes I'll paint in the dark portion of the clouds and then I'll get it home and it's just so dark. Whereas if you look at the sky, like compare the value of the sky to the hills here, all the values in the sky are very light value. All right, adding titanium white and a bit of this yellow mixture here, just for a warmer white. All right, so I think I've maintained the value relationship there. So even though there's some variety, it's still, you know, still looks like a unified shape. And I might actually add some bits of cerulean along the top here, but I'm gonna hold off on that for now. All right, I'm mixing up a dark using ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. So it's kind of a blue-green, a dark blue-green, and just looking for some, you know, shadow shapes in these trees in the foreground. And I want to keep this line along here irregular. It's one of the things that happens a lot when we're doing landscapes is we tend to kind of organize things a bit too much. All right, and these trees here are much darker. All right, adding a bit more ultramarine, and then same thing here, making sure this line is kind of irregular. Actually, I want to recapture this here, have this come up like that. There we go. I feel like paintings like this are kind of exploratory paintings where I'm just exploring an idea. I'm not really concerned whether the painting works out or not. I'm gonna remove some of this green here. I do want a suggestion of trail out here too, as I mentioned. All right, so I've got a variety of warmish tones, and they're all made with varying mixtures of titanium white and yellow ochre and dioxazine purple. Adding thicker paint now. Within the trail, we'll have a mixture of warm and cool, and adding some, just some like sort of more orangish red tones in here. Indian yellow drying on the palette here, gonna use that. You know, have it a little bit warmer and more saturated in the foreground. And I'm using a number 4 natural bristle, adding some defined strokes here. Just trying to achieve something maybe different from what I usually do, just for the sake of variety and fun. All right, mixing up a warm blue-green here using phthalo blue, Indian yellow, and titanium white. Now I'm kind of looking for varieties in the greens, and just going to sort of experiment, you know, with some warm and cool greens. All right, so darkening up the base of these sort of blue-green plants, and for balance, add a little bit of that color over here too. Straight dioxazine purple here, just darkening up the trees again. This painting started going off the rails for a bit, and so I'm just having fun, you know, just putting saturated variety of colors in here, all this thick paint here, and experimenting with different, you know, directions in the brush strokes as well. All right, to recap the process here, basically scrubbed in big shapes using a number 8 natural bristle flat. Then I came over with some thicker paint, especially in the lighter areas, like along the trail here. Also some of the light parts of the clouds. Here's a look at some of the brushwork up close. As I mentioned during the process, I kind of went off the rails there and thought this painting was a loss. Then I put in the darks along the trees here, and it kind of came back to life. When a painting's not working out, it's an opportunity to problem solve. I try not to get discouraged and wipe out the painting. Usually what I try to do is just keep going and play around and see what happens. And in this case, I'm glad that I stuck with it. You know, sometimes in the process, you'll be surprised. One little change can make a huge difference. So keep going. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. Got a bunch of extra videos and a materials list, so check it out. Other than that, stay creative, and I'll see you guys in the next video.